Imagine this, you're at home, lying on the couch, smartphone in hand. Just a few taps and you can order food, watch movies, laugh at memes, chat with strangers, watch motivational videos, and, for a few minutes, forget there's an emptiness
inside you. But what if I told you that this comfort, this instant gratification, is silently destroying you? What if the greatest enemy of your freedom wasn't a dictator or an authoritarian government,
but the overabundance of easy pleasures? That the real control over you isn't enforced through pain, but through pleasure? That the trap isn't a prison camp, but the cozy couch where you spend hours? Today we're going to explore how Aldous, Huxley predicted a society not ruled by brutal tyranny, but by anesthetic entertainment. And maybe by the end of this video, you'll realize that the greatest form of slavery is the one that feels like freedom. The kind that wears the mask of choice but drains your willpower. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. This quote from Goethe echoes even louder in the context of Huxley's Brave New World. While many feared a dystopian future shaped by Orwellian repression, Huxley offered something more subtle, more real, a society that feels free because it can consume whatever it wants, whenever it wants, yet is being manipulated all along. Freedom has become a spectacle. You can choose your phone color, your pizza topping, your playlist vibe. But when was the last time you stopped to think about what you choose to feel?
about what you choose to avoid, and who profits from that. We live in a time where freedom has been reduced to the freedom to choose brands, packages, apps. But what about the freedom to choose silence, to say no to the impulse, to not be
affected by other people's opinions, to fully disconnect from everything that drains your vital energy? Huxley believed the true tyranny of the future wouldn't come with tanks in the streets, but with algorithms in our pockets. And unlike Orwell's brutality, this tyranny is quiet, comfortable, and disguised as autonomy. It's the prison of pleasure, sweet on the surface, yet deeply dangerous. To understand how we've become so easy to control, we need to talk about conditioning. B.F. Skinner, a psychologist and behavioral researcher, ran experiments where animals were conditioned through punishment and reward. Huxley saw this and asked, what if it's not rats? What if it's the entire population? And instead of electric shocks and food pellets, what if we use dopamine, clicks, social rewards? Today, our behavior is shaped in the same way. A like here, a notification there, a dopamine hit every time we do something acceptable. We live in a system where instant pleasure has become the most efficient form of social control. Small constant rewards create emotional dependence, but there's something even deeper. We've learned to enjoy what imprisons us. We don't feel oppressed because we're constantly rewarded. Tiny stimuli keep us trapped in cycles of repetition, consumption,
and obedience disguised as choice. The cage is comfortable, the leash is digital, the control is psychological. We don't need bars, we don't need explicit censorship. All it takes is keeping us busy, entertained, and slightly numbed. And just like
that, we give away our attention, our autonomy, our humanity, without a fight. In Huxley's novel, there was a drug called soma. It made people forget their pain, their restlessness. It was a socially accepted hallucinogen, an emotional antidepressant that kept everyone in a state of passive compliance. Today, soma isn't in futuristic bottles. It's in the endless scroll of social media. It's in easily accessible porn. It's in games that offer dopamine without effort. It's in the comfort of constant distraction. How many times have you felt bad and, instead of facing that pain, ran to a screen, to a snack, to a momentary pleasure? How many times have you ignored an important question about yourself just to avoid the discomfort of answering it? The issue isn't just what we consume, it's how that consumption prevents us from reflecting. Pleasure has become a veil, a way to avoid self-knowledge. The excess of pleasure pulls us away from life's most important questions. Who are we? What are we searching for? Where are we going? The problem isn't pleasure. The problem is pleasure as escape, as anesthesia, as a replacement for real meaning. The problem is pleasure that silences what should awaken us. Constant pleasure comes with a price, your attention. But that's just the beginning. Each time you choose the easier path, you give up a part of yourself. Your discipline weakens. Your presence fades. Your will dissolves. And what's left is a silent void you try to fill with more stimuli, more clicks, more consumption. The true tragedy of pleasure without purpose is that it numbs us to depth. We lose our taste for silence, for reflection, for the struggle that builds character. We lose the inner strength that comes from resistance. Huxley believed that by eliminating discomfort, we also eliminate the possibility of transcendence. Pain, emptiness, discomfort, they move us, they make us grow. Without pain, there's no strength. Without discomfort, there's no truth. When you numb yourself, you sabotage yourself. You trade depth for distraction, being for seeming, potential for paralysis. And in the end, you get lost. Not from a lack of paths, but from too many distractions. Make no mistake, constant pleasure is not just a personal problem. It's a strategy. Huxley warned that when we're constantly entertained, we lose our ability to resist, to question, to think. Constant entertainment is the most efficient weapon against critical consciousness. Distraction is a new form of censorship, more elegant, more effective. It's easier to rule over a numbed people than a revolted one. It's simpler to manipulate those afraid to leave their comfort bubble. The distracted citizen is the ideal citizen for any subtle control system. The politics of entertainment.
Mindless consumption and cheap dopamine is, at its core, a form of domination. A kind of tyranny that doesn't need to shout because everyone's too busy to listen. And when they finally look around,
they no longer know how to escape. You don't need to burn books if no one has the patience to read them. You don't need to censor ideas if everyone's too distracted to think. Distraction is the new authoritarian regime, and the most dangerous one because it's voluntary, it's desired, it's celebrated. We are a generation conditioned to avoid any form of discomfort, and because of that we've become addicted, but not to substances, to sensations. We're addicted to notifications, to social approval, to instant dopamine, to external validation. And each of these addictions makes us less capable of withstanding silence, introspection, waiting. The simple act of being alone has become unbearable. But have you noticed what we've lost? We've lost silence, we've lost boredom, and with it, the ability to create, to imagine, to question. The addict doesn't think, they just react. And that may be the most accurate portrait of the society Huxley feared. A society that feels free, but is enslaved by its own desires. The absence of discomfort isn't freedom, it's numbness. It's noise disguised as choice, and the more numbed we are, the less human we become. We become reflections, not people. Reactions, not consciousness, but what if there was another kind of pleasure? What if, instead of instant dopamine, you sought disciplined joy, the kind that comes from achievement, from building, from full presence, to reclaim discomfort as a path, to choose conscious struggle, to look inward instead of escaping outward, to replace distraction with purpose, to withdraw in order to expand. That kind of pleasure is slower, deeper, more real. It requires effort, but it brings peace. It's the pleasure of living with purpose, with clarity, with meaning, a pleasure that doesn't numb, but enlightens, a pleasure that transforms instead of hiding. This isn't about rejecting pleasure, it's about redefining it. It's about seeking the kind of pleasure that builds.
You, not numbs you. It's about reconnecting with what makes you human, replacing addiction with value, impulse with intention. To be human is to feel joy, yes.
But also anxiety, doubt, pain. And by feeling all of it, we grow. We become more whole, more lucid, more free. Huxley invites us to feel again, to snap out of the hypnosis of distraction, to face what scares us, to reoccupy the space of consciousness with presence and truth, because only those who face discomfort can ever truly be free. Freedom isn't the absence of pain, it's the presence of awareness, the power to choose what's real over what's easy. Maybe today, the greatest act of courage is simply this: to unplug, to step out of the cycle, to sit in silence, to feel, to turn inward, to inhabit yourself. If this resonated with you like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who might be stuck in a cycle of cheap pleasures.